G'day guys. Well, we are here with Teresa Weiss. Teresa is an old friend of mine who I met when I was selling real estate. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have Teresa on because she is a wealth of real estate knowledge and not only a lovely human being and hugely inspirational, influential. Probably the most recent success Teresa had as a salesperson was in the Eastern Bays. And she started out like everyone does, and the difference being she'd already done it and she'd helped other people do it, and she was able to apply everything that she had learned. And I imagine it was quite different the second time around, which we're going to get into. But she was hugely successful. So she doubled her income year on year. She was there for 3 years, and in her third year she was grossing over 100,000 a month. And she is now managing her own branch, and she's had huge success with her salespeople there. In fact, the Rookie of the Year was under Teresa's guidance. So I'm really excited to have you with me today, Teresa. And if you're just tuning in, you are in for an absolute beautiful session here because Teresa has got some amazing gems. But very quickly also, as we're waiting for others to join in, we're in a really strange environment at the moment. We're looking at, we've had the release on the COVID situation that we don't know if we're going to go to alert level 3. That's not going to be announced until Monday, but at alert level 3, a little bit still ambiguous about what we can and can't do. The good news though, 8 cases today the government announced, and only 2 of those are actually confirmed cases. The other are just those suspected cases that they're saying that they assume they are, but they haven't actually had the test. So it seems like there's still that downward trend. So fingers crossed we'll be able to get out of here and make some more progress. But Teresa, tell me a little tell me a little bit more about your experience getting into real estate sales that second time around.
Second time round, very different to the first time round, and David will know this because, as he said, I've known him for quite some time. I think in order to explain the second time round, you've got to understand the first time round. And the first time round I got into real estate as a salesperson with a salesperson mentality, and I went out as a salesperson offering a selling service. The second time round when I got into real estate, I came in as a business operator. I was not a salesperson, and the thought of actually being a salesperson to me, or a real estate salesperson, was actually a real put off for me. So I made sure when I came in with a business mentality. It meant that, I guess, in my own accountability and responsibilities for myself, yes, I was the only person in my business, but it was a business. It wasn't just a selling opportunity. And it also meant when I went out and spoke to people, I wasn't speaking to them as a salesperson, I was speaking to them as a very authentic person, going out to help and assist their needs in a business that I had a lot of knowledge and experience in.
And when you say you went out with a business owner mentality, you're not actually talking about having your own business per se, you're still just an individual salesperson?
Still just an individual salesperson, and it's what I see the difference between really successful salespeople today and not successful. People that go in with this is my own business and I'm responsible for it, and that also includes investment into business, ultimately become more successful. So second time round when I came in, I employed a designer, a creative designer who happened to be one of my best friends. I think I spent about $10,000 with her, which probably sounds like a lot of money. But it set me up with a brand within a brand. I got pre-listing kits. My pre-listing kits had beautifully personalised Hessian sacking bags, which would have chocolates, coffees. Everything was high end. It would be for mum, dad, kids, etc. And I got that off Chris Gilmore years and years ago at an under 40s training way back when. I got branded personalised tea towels, which were all a vintage look with my contact details on. I did a whole branding of personalised postcards. I got 2,000 or 5,000, sorry, of 10 different designs. So I went in with a very set plan around how I was going to do business, and every interaction that I had with somebody, I was going to have a point of difference. It wasn't just going to be Teresa Weiss, another real estate agent.
Yeah, so let's unpack this a little bit. So we're drawing the contrast between having a salesperson's mentality versus having a business mentality that just happens to do real estate sales. And in that business mentality, the first thing that you're picking on here is the marketing. And part of that marketing is you hired a designer. So I guess that's recognizing where your strengths lie, and also being able to outsource or invest in quality pieces. And so the marketing piece you're talking about, where you spent 10 grand, that is in the branding side, or is it also in the product side? Is that a cumulative total? When you say the marketing, is it?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
That's all right, a breakdown of both. And that's a total, as in creating the brand concept, creating the product to support the brand. So Natasha made sure that I had online social media branding. She made sure that I had hard copy, print material, print media branding that could go out. I immediately ordered 10,000 of my branded bags that I needed. I ordered 10,000 little home sweet home postcards that got tied to every bag. So it ended up with, I at the beginning, I obviously had backed myself, knowing that I was going to do this and be successful at it, and was very committed to the brand. So I didn't just get a 500 of something. I did a brand setup, and that included getting the product, except for the treats that went in the pre-listing kits. But I went in on day one with a full branding model and all of the product to support that.
So you actually invested in the business before you'd even earned a cent.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's a huge point.
Yeah, and I think that's coming in the second time round, because I'd come in the first time round and I was just one other real estate agent in this big pool. There was nothing to set me apart, and unless somebody met me and liked my personality. And I think the first time round, we didn't have technology, we didn't have the accessibility to some of the marketing mediums we have these days. So the second time round, I realised that if I wanted to be successful and authentic and genuine as having a point of difference, I needed to create what my point of difference was. Who was I going to be when I met somebody? And so I took control of what that presentation material was going to be like, and how I was going to present myself to them on the first meeting, and also with all the backing material that went out either before they'd met me or post.
And I understand that you had Tasha's help with kind of creating your brand, but what guidance and perhaps advice could you give about coming up with your own brand? Because that's incredibly hard to really see yourself for who you are and then highlight an aspect of it. What was your experience with that?
Well, I had time. I was a new mum. I had a 1.5-year-old child. I knew I was going back to selling real estate. So at night, when I had time on my own, Tash would get me to write down words that described me, and write down words that she felt that would add value to the people that I was going to be talking to. Also, what kind of brand, who was I as a person? Was I a one-on-one person? Was I somebody who was connecting with the mums in the community? Who was my target market? Who did I want to attract into my real estate world? So I guess, you know, the biggest piece of advice she gave me, which I give to people today, is law of attraction. Whether you believe it or not, I do. So you attract back what you put out. And so I made sure that what I was putting out was a true reflection of who I was, so that I attracted back similar people to me.
Yeah, I love that. Well, once you've got this marketing and you're going out there, you had physical product, but of course you're also putting stuff out online. What was your kind of execution piece alongside the marketing? Because if we look at it from that business analogy, there's different functions in the business. Marketing, critically important, and having the confidence to back yourself and invest in that obviously really helped to catapult you quickly. What else did you do? What are the other aspects?
I think the marketing is the back end. It's the support brand for what you go out and do. I wish that I could give you a shortcut answer, but David, you saw me doing some of it. We'd catch up on the odd occasion through that. There was no shortcut. I started work in this office at 5 a.m. every morning. I would have my coffee stand next to the desk. I'd have 3 coffees. I'd normally be in my pajamas, and before 9 a.m. I would have done all of my emails. I would have done all of my appraisals. Anything I needed to do that would stop me getting in front of people through the day was done between 5 and 9 a.m. So what I'd do when I started the day at 9, and that was after taking some time to go and see the family, obviously, have breakfast and say goodbye and get dressed. But I knew the minute 9 o'clock started, I had to be talking to people. So I broke it down into whether it was going to be telemarketing, door knocking, which were my two avenues. That was all I did. So my goal was to go out and build a database. I'd done it before, so I knew what needed to be done. I also knew there were no shortcuts. So I would get glammed up into my heels and my suits in the middle of summer and go door knocking around Glendowie. And I would have printed out a monthly newsletter that I used to give, which didn't have a lot of fluff in it. All it did was gave what properties had sold in the area and what those properties had sold for and what those features were. So for me, I wanted to give value, and anyone who, in real estate sales know, if you go and ask someone if they want to sell their house, they say no. So it's finding another way to become their preferred agent. So all I would do is take my fake Louis Vuitton case with me, which had all of the recent sales in the area. I created just a basic A4 sheet that had Home Sweet Home up the top, which was my logo, and it would have customer name, address, future property requirements, email address and phone number, and then any additional notes. And I always filled it out with a fake person before I went out door knocking. So that
Can you just run us through that again?
So what I had was a template, and it was just on a basic A4, and it would have on the front page probably 4 options for people to put their details. And so it would have customer name, customer address, customer phone number, customer email address, future property requirements, and any follow-up required. And so when I'd knock on somebody's door, which I did all the time, it was just, "Hi, Teresa Weiss from Barfoot and Thompson. Look, I specialise in the area, wanted to pop in and introduce myself and just see if you have any interest in being kept up to date with what properties specific to your area are selling for." And people would look at me sometimes and go, "Yep, that's fine. That would be lovely if that was the case." I'd say, "Wonderful." Now, what I do is I send out a monthly email, and in that there's not a lot of fluff. It is purely what properties are selling for in Glendowie, St Heliers, Kowie at that time, and the property prices that they've achieved. Who should I attention that to? And so I'd write down your name, I'd write down your email address, I'd say, "Now, what's your phone number?" And I'd say, "The only reason I want that is that I want to give you a call in 12 weeks' time. Don't panic, I'm not going to hound you. I just want to make sure that what you're receiving, A, you're receiving it, and B, it's relevant. Is that okay?" They'd generally say yes, so I'd write down their phone number. "Oh, now, just while I'm here, have you thought about doing anything in regards to property over the next 12 months or so?" "Oh, yeah, actually, we have been looking for something," or "No, we'll move out of here in a box," whatever it might be. But if they were looking for an investment property or they were looking for their next property, I'd write down some details of what that would look like. And then I'd just say, "Hey, look, if I did come across that property today, would it be in your interest if I called you?" And they'd say yes or no. I'd say, "Thanks so much, nice to meet you." And I'd do that probably for at least 3 hours a day in door knocking, and I'd do 6 hours a day on the phone. So my goal was not to get listings. My goal was to get 5 people giving me permission to stay on my phone call. And so what I did is when I got back to the office, first thing, 5 o'clock the next morning, I would get my coffee and then I'd send them an email. "Great to chat briefly yesterday," if I'd talked to them over the phone, or if it was at the door, "It was great to meet you briefly yesterday. As discussed, please see a template of what I'll be sending you each month. It will arrive between the 17th and the 20th based on when that data becomes available. If you'd like any information about what's happening in the property market between now and then, please give me a call at any stage." And the amount of people that noticed that I'd sent the email between 5 and 8 a.m. was absolutely amazing. But the other feedback I used to get is that my follow-up was just incredibly superior. So what I do then, stop me at any time, what I do then...
This is gold, Teresa. This is absolute gold. Keep going.
Well, it's simple. There's no easy way. I put it into a database, which was just an Excel spreadsheet. And then I'd put the contact straight into my Gmail calendar for 3 months' time. So it would pop up automatically. In there, it would have their name, their phone number, and the reason I was calling back. So it would be Sally from 25 Chelmsford, door knocked her 3 months ago, follow-up phone call, not looking at doing real estate at this point. And so the only reason I would call Sally between when I'd door knocked her or telemarketed her and given the follow-up email the next morning would be if there was a property that was listed in her street or sold in her street before the 12-week call. So if that happened, and so every morning I'd be on trademeorrealestate.co looking at every new property that every agency had put up. And again, 9 o'clock, which wasn't always the best thing to do, calling local residents at 9, but I'd be on the phone to everybody in my database in that street or going through RPNZ for every contact phone number I could find. Just Teresa, a quick courtesy call, just letting you know that number 25 Roberta's come on the market today. Just letting you know before the sign goes up, as a lot of neighbours know somebody who's wanting to move into the area. We thought we'd let you know before the general public finds out later in the day. By the way, if you're the listing agent, you invite them through. If you're not the listing agent, would you like me to let you know what the property sells for? Once the property sells, we phone them back. It's not rocket science, is it?
Hey, look, you said something near the start about, there wasn't any shortcuts. This is hard graft. Yeah. But I want to give a little bit of context for anyone that's watching this. We're not talking about real estate 10, 15 years ago, going out and door knocking. This was what, not even 6 years ago, was it?
It was 5.5 years ago. And there are 2 new people in my area. One is not in my business. One is in my business. The one who is not in my business, he's been in real estate for 2 years. And you didn't see him a lot in the first year, but I knew what he was doing because he'd come to see me. He was door knocking, telemarketing, doing business card drops, and he's in his 2nd year now. He's just sold a $5 million house down in St. Heliers, and he's averaging having 3 to 4 listings a month.
This is Real Estate 101, and it's the discipline of actually doing the basics consistently. I think you've got to have an incredible desire and discipline to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning, nutting out the paperwork, so that, guess what? Oh, wait, hang on. Now you're going out and you're door knocking and making phone calls.
The reason I did it at 5 a.m., just to give it context, at that stage, I had a 2-year-old. And I thought I was going to be selling for a lot longer. So I thought if I start at 5, I can finish at 2:45 and pick him up from school when he gets older. So I would finish my days at 3 o'clock.
There you go. So out there building a contact list by going around, knocking on the door, following up on phone and on email, and you did so. For anyone who's watching this and wondering, you're doing this the 2nd time round, did you start off with an established client list, or did you have to build this from scratch?
No, I had to go back to scratch. It was the same area, but when I sold in Glendowie, essentially 15, 16 years ago, my name was Teresa Reynolds, not Teresa Weiss, and I probably looked a bit different. So I also gave away that database to somebody else in the office when I stopped selling the first time round. So everything was back to scratch. I didn't have a database at all to start with.
So we've kind of delved in and covered a bit of marketing and branding, creating a position for yourself, investing in the business rather than looking at it as a salesperson. And then we've gone into your actions and what you did in that. Let's be clear, was this your first few months, or did you do this throughout your 3 years?
Well, it started at day 1, clearly. And so my week would be broken down to door knocking, telemarketing, and sending out 2 streets of business cards. And on the back of the business card would say, please call me on Tuesday or Wednesday between 6 and 8 p.m. regarding your property. I got a lot of abuse for those. And it was another agent, Kelly Midwood, told me to do them, but it created 25% of my income in my first year. And I think probably more than 50% over the 2nd and 3rd year, because those people, if they didn't want to sell, they still wanted to know what was happening in the property market. So just to put that in context, did I do it throughout the full 3 years? Look, most of the time, first year definitely, 2nd year I dropped it down a little bit, but that was because I was averaging 6 listings. And so I was able to meet my target of 5 new people on my database a day primarily by having those new listings. But
this is a huge point. This is a huge point, and I don't want it to be missed, because I almost missed it the first time around. You created yourself a target that was not an income goal or a listing goal or even an appraisal goal. It was simply 5 new people giving you permission to be in touch with them.
Yeah, and the reason I did that is I saw too many salespeople fail because they had all of their energy was set on getting a listing or getting an appraisal. I realised how hard that was. You know, you're not going to get a listing every day. You're not going to get an appraisal every day. And then your sense of failure as a salesperson and all the rejection you get while you're trying to become successful just gets in your head and messes with you. So you stop doing what you know you need to do in order to go out and be successful. So for me and for my salespeople, we don't talk about listing and appraisal targets, not until they're in for at least 3 or 4 months and I can see the discipline and activity they're doing. We talk about how to get 5 new contacts on your database, and not just people that go into the back end of a system somewhere. These are 5 people that you are now in a position to build a relationship with and become the preferred agent before they need you. That's all I focus on.
Yeah. And there's a couple of other key parts with those 5 people. They immediately followed up the next day with contacts, thanking them for their time. They're alerted to what they're going to get. I think you said between the 15th and the 17th of the month, depending on the data availability. And then you're following that up to check and see if it's been useful to them.
Yep, following that up in 12 weeks. And then I remember listening to Max Steinwade a couple of years ago, sitting in my car, and he would always say, have a printed out copy of your database in front of you. And so anytime you had 10 minutes up your sleeve, and I used to do this after sales meetings or anywhere where I had 10, 15 minutes in the car, anything that was happening in property, and you can always find something happening in property in a street in your farm area on a day, I'd be going through my hard copy database, ringing those people and saying, just giving you a courtesy call to let you know X, Y, or Z.
Fantastic. Another thing that strikes me as interesting is there's been a lot of talk from trainers and other salespeople about doing the hardest thing first, and often that's presumed to be phone calls. But I notice you're up ahead of the curve and finishing ahead of the curve, knocking off at 2:45, 3 o'clock each day. But the first thing you're doing, obviously, at 5 is not on the phone. Maybe that's a big thing, because for salespeople, it's not always a barrier to just pick up the phone and talk to people. Maybe it's the database they're putting off or the paperwork that's actually stopping them from being effective.
Yeah, I think the big thing about working, for me anyway, being able to work outside of normal business hours is you're not getting the interruptions. So I would finish my day at 2:30 with a to-do list of what I needed to do the next morning. So I had total clarity when I finished exactly what needed to be done before 9 o'clock the next morning. And so when I got to 9 o'clock, I knew I wasn't going to get interruptions, and I wasn't sitting there with pressing things that had to happen. I would have my appointments, which I tried to keep to the afternoon, and I tried to keep appointments to 3 days a week during weekdays and of course weekends. But outside of that, I was really disciplined with my time. If I was making phone calls and I was, telemarketing, and sometimes you've got to make 100 phone calls just to get 2 new people on your database, I would not be taking incoming calls. I would not be checking my emails. I would not be getting distracted. So I know a lot of people, and they're probably far more clever than me, would sit there and type into their database as they're getting that consistency happening from people. But I would have an A4 sheet of paper or an A4 refill pad. I'd just be writing down people's names when they were giving me a yes, writing down their email address, writing down did they want monthly stats or weekly stats, because we'd send out new properties every week, and any comments. That's it. I'd do that all day until I got to however many it was. Sometimes you'd get 20 people, other times you'd get 5. The only time I'd stop is if someone was saying, hey, look, actually, we do want to know how much our house is worth, or actually, we do want to look at properties. And if something sprung to mind, then I'd make an appointment with them for the next day or the following day and carry on from there. Whereas when I first started in real estate, any chance to make an appointment, you stop all your disciplined activity and you just run out the door to try and catch that appointment. And that's the difference between being a salesperson and operating a business.
Yeah, I hear you talking so much about that that clarity of where you're spending your time and chunking it rather than getting distracted and running around with different things. You would have to be incredibly disciplined to not leap at the opportunity to go and look at that $5 million listing when the owner says to you, oh, look, sorry, I can't do before 3. Could you come at 4 o'clock today? And you're going, no. How did you handle that? If you really want to be structured with your time, how do you deal with that kind of thing?
Well, I was lucky because I had a child. I couldn't go. So between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. when my husband got home, I couldn't. So it was, and most people would accept that. I'd say to people, look, I'm available from 5 a.m. I can come tomorrow at 5:15 in the morning. I'm happy to do that. But between 3 and 6 p.m., I'm a mum. So that's my job. But when my husband gets home at 6, if you're available tonight, and I'd try and limit it to 2 nights a week, if you're available tonight, then I'd love the opportunity to come and see you then. Would that be okay?
Love it. And you mentioned before you would limit those other viewings for 3 days a week, and so it's the same approach.
Yep. So
actually putting people into your time frame rather than just going all over the place.
Yeah, I listened to Karen Cooper talk once, and she came and talked to a group of managers a number of years ago, and Karen said that she never left the house on a Monday. And I've never done anything new in real estate. I just copy and rip off everybody else. And so I thought, okay, well, I won't leave the house on a Monday, because you've done all your open homes on Saturday and Sunday. You've spoken to 10 or 100 people. You've had your show face on. Monday's a really good time to run around in jeans and a T-shirt and not have to see anybody and just process all of the activity that's happened on the weekend. Get everyone in your database, make all of your open home calls, get all of your appointments set up for the week. And sometimes at the beginning when you didn't have that, I'd sit on the phones for 6 hours just prospecting off the phones. But you just start the week with a lot of mental calmness, and you go into your working week with your appointments with total clarity.
Oh, that's huge. We've talked a lot about that kind of, I guess, startup phase. And one of the things that you mentioned was this business card drop that I think you said 25% in your first year, maybe 50% of your results in terms of listing opportunities, you could attribute back to that strategy. Are you happy to share with us that strategy from woe to go? Because I know, having done a similar thing, that when you leave a business card in somebody's letterbox and they do call you, you better be ready to answer that call.
It's hard. So when I started, of course, the second time around, I didn't have any buyers, but I was fortunate that Paul Nischhausen, which was a guy who worked in my office, had started a couple of months before me, and he was a real hunter. So he had a lot of buyers. So in real estate, you have to get creative whilst you have integrity around doing that. And so my business cards would always say, please call me on Tuesday or Wednesday between 6 and 8 p.m. regarding your property. I'd only ever drop 2 streets at once, so I knew exactly what street they were calling from. I did Riddell Road once, which was 2,000 cards, so that was a busy night. But what would happen is when they called back initially, when I was starting out, I'd have Property Guru or RPNZ open on my computer. And so they'd call and they'd say, you've left a card in my letterbox. And I'd say, oh, look, thank you so much for coming back to me. I really appreciate it. Now, I have to be upfront. I did drop a few cards into 2 streets. So you're either in Sierra Ave or you're calling me from Aragon. Can I ask which one you're in? And they'd say, well, I'm in Sierra Street. Oh, look, that's absolutely brilliant. The reason that I popped a card into your letterbox is I've been working with some clients, and you can generally always find a client. They're looking at getting their kids into this local school zone. They have looked at what's on the market. I haven't been able to secure the perfect property for them. And they have asked me to contact a few people specifically in your street whose house might be suitable for them, to see if, given the right circumstance, you'd be open to selling. And this is where you have to get creative. And they'd say, I'd then say, look, can I just ask what number Sierra Street you are? And they'd say, oh, we're 32 Sierra Street. And I'd be type in 32 Sierra Street on Property Guru, and I'd say, oh, fantastic. Oh, now you're on a great site there. You've got 800 square metres. You've got 3 bedrooms. Oh, and you're that beautiful 1970s architecturally designed home. Oh, no wonder they would love to look at your home. And then the next question they're going to ask you is, well, how much have they got? Well, of course, I'd see the CV's 1.5. And I'd say, look, price isn't the absolute number one at the moment. They're either looking at buying their family home and an investment property, or spending all of their money into their family home, because you knew you could always find somebody like that. And generally I had a client in the background who fitted that category. And I'd say, but look, they can spend up to 1.8. They'd prefer not to, but that's what they can spend. So, you know, if there's CVs 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, if they say 1.8, that generally it piques their interest. And then they'd say, okay, well, why don't you bring them round? I'd say, look, just to ensure I'm not wasting your time or theirs, what I'd like to do is just pop around and meet you, just take 10 minutes to have a look around your home and have a discussion with you around the price that you'd like me to portray to Nikki and John. And then also see if your house is going to be compatible. Would that be okay? They'd say yes. I'd say great. What's the time to do that? It'd be 3 o'clock on whenever it was, or 2 o'clock. I'd pop round, and if I genuinely didn't have somebody, I'd say, look, I have to be honest, it's a beautiful home, but it's not going to suit them. However, if I do come across somebody who is going to be interested, would you like me to tell them about your property? And then we just started a conversation. You know, I know you're not going to sell it today, and these people aren't correct, but what are your next steps? So it's always just a conversation. More often than not, when they'd phone back, they'd say, why did you call me? And so I'd go through the first thing. I've got buyers looking in your area, 4 school zones, etc., young family. I'd never give last names, but I'd try and give a bit of detail, Nikki and John with their 2 kids. And if they say, no, not looking at selling, I'd just say, hey, look, completely appreciate that. Can I ask, are you interested in knowing what properties are selling for specific to your area? Oh, yes, we'd be interested in that. Fantastic. I send out a monthly update of what all of the properties in the area have sold for. Who should I attention that to? So just go straight back to my first script. And that's where my business in my 2nd and 3rd year came from. It was all the pipeline of those passive people back then.
So the basic strategy of action: marketing, door knocking, business card drops, and then religious follow-up and protection of your time, and that structure with doing this.
Yeah. And don't wait till you've got a buyer, because somebody in your office will have a buyer. There's always going to be a buyer you can find to match that property.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about, I guess, that next phase, doubling your income? And that's, it's not an easy thing to do in any business. And yes, it is possible in real estate, but the exceptions rather than the rule.
Yeah.
What was that next phase like, where you started to get some traction now and you're getting your listings? How did you maximize the opportunities from that?
Look, I think I was fortunate that I did have a reasonable amount of experience and knowledge behind me. So I didn't come in completely new and have to learn along the way. But the things, and this is the bit where I always say to David, I find it hard to talk myself up, but the things that people always used to say to me was that I was one of the most professional, but one of the most friendliest real estate agents, that I was completely approachable, didn't have a big ego, and was down to earth. So it was just that human connection. I made sure it's just follow up. When everyone came through my open home, I would normally have something special. So it would either be some of the tea towels with my branding on the table, something that would set me apart for Easter. There'd be Easter eggs, just little things, which I'm sure everybody does. But I think it really came down to my follow-up, and that's what people always used to say to me: you're always the first agent to tell us about anything that's happening in the market. So any buyer I'd come in touch with on a weekend and that property wasn't suitable for them, on Tuesday morning, which is when most of our properties go live around Auckland, I'd be on Trade Me at 5 a.m. when all other agents were asleep. So I would have sent the email or the text. I always sent the text between 6 and 8 a.m. So buyers always heard about it first from me. So that set me apart. But the 2 things I did that made a real difference, and one is going back to that, the bag I used to do, which if I really wanted a listing, or once I got the listing, I'd give them a bag with champagne in it and a Koya candle in it and a thank you card. And I'd take that round when we were doing caravan and leave it for them in the house and just say, thank you so much for presenting your home so beautifully today. I would make sure, if it was a $2 million property, and this got me so much return and repeat business, if it was a $2 million property, I didn't give them a gift hamper. I sent them a bottle of Dom Perignon, bunch of lilies, and a Koya candles. And it only cost me, Dom Perignon only cost me, $80 more than, probably $100 more than another bottle of champagne. But who gets given Dom Perignon? By their real estate agents. And so all of a sudden they'd be sending that, sharing it on Facebook. They'd be telling all of their friends about it. And the referral business I would get as a result, that I was always giving them little goodies along the way.
Amazing. Yeah. It's funny because you say, oh, I'm sure lots of people are doing this kind of stuff, but actually there are probably most people giving a gift to a vendor, but how many people are creating that ripple effect of something that makes them go, oh my gosh, wow. So I love it. There's a really interesting piece at the moment where the market's changing and there's huge uncertainty. Knowing that, going into a listing today, if you were coming in with a listing opportunity, how do you have a productive conversation that builds the trust that you're the right person to do the job without promising something that you just have no control over?
I think, more than ever, just being completely authentic and genuine is what's going to make the difference. None of us know what's going to happen. And so there's no point sitting in someone's room saying, look, this is what the market's going to look like in a month. We don't know. But at the end of the day, if I've got someone who's thinking about going on the market or not, we just need to drill down and find out why. What difference is it going to make to them if they don't go on the market now? And if they do need to go on the market because their personal circumstances mean that that's the case, then we just have to guide them through it. People are still going to have to buy and sell properties. But I think it's really important that we're genuine, that we have empathy, that we don't oversell. I think also with purchases, going into lockdown, we had our best March. It was huge. We had an amazing March. And there were still purchasers who were getting beaten in the auction rooms consistently because they thought they were having to pay too much money. So we were getting back to a really buoyant market. We're starting to see buyers now saying, oh, everything's going to slow down. We're going to wait and get a bargain. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we have a social responsibility to actually build faith back into the property market. And the way that we do that is we represent our vendors well. We don't oversell a property price-wise, but we also don't allow them to get bullied by people saying, we're going to get everything at a bargain. None of us are going to know, and this is what I would be saying to a vendor now, we are not going to know for 6 weeks' time until the first round of properties go to auction or go to tender or go through the selling process. We don't know. But buyers are out there, they're still looking. If you're not on the market, you're never going to find out. So it might be $4,000 or $5,000, or 10,000, whatever it might be, to test the market now. If you don't get what you want, you can come off. But from what you're telling me, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, you need to sell your properties. So let's go through the process. And at the end, if we find out it's a $4,000 or $5,000 exercise and you decide that you don't want to sell it, you're not going to be sitting here for the next 2 years asking the question.
Yeah, so true. You came into it with basically starting from scratch again, starting to get those listing opportunities. What's the secret to winning a listing, even if you have no other stock on the market?
Look, I don't know the answer to that, David. I was pretty good at winning listings, and I generally knew the ones I weren't going to win because you just have a gut feel. But I think if we have to package it up, you've got to be adaptable. You've got to have a high emotional intelligence so that you can read the room. You've got to be intuitive, and you've got to go in asking questions. I mean, I got taught very early on, if you're doing all the talking and not, you've lost the listing anyway. People want to talk. Yeah. So I go in with my job is to help my clients uncover their own answers. And I just lay out the process along the way as to how we can help them get to the desired outcome. And I think that's probably really helped me, is that I go in to help. I sit there with them. Often if I'm up against another agent and they'll have, and I got this off Michael Springford and Whangarei, and they'll have 3 agents in. I'll say, great, can I ask which number am I? And if they say, look, you're number 3, I'd say, you must be so confused by now. How can I help? So it's just, and then the other great script I got was from John Wall on listing presentations. I brought with me today a presentation I'd like to take you through, at the end of which, if you are happy to put me to work, I'm going to ask you to fill out the paperwork to do so. Is that okay? And for me, naturally, that's a really hard thing to say, but you got out, oh no, my partner's not here and they need to be, oh no, we're seeing another agent tomorrow, oh no, it depends on the marketing and the commission. You may as well find that out up front than wait to get to the end and you've created your entire presentation against, I mean, you know you've lost it just because you didn't uncover the right questions. So if I know I've got other agents, I want to know who they are because I know what their selling strategy is. So then I'll tailor my presentation to make sure that I'm making myself look better than that agent.
There's some huge points in there. I think it's so important to be asking questions, but also asking the right questions. And if I try and paraphrase what you were saying there, using your emotional intelligence and your kind of read on the room to actually help them to come up with their own solutions rather than just trying to shove your solution down their throat, and having a clear process that you can actually walk them through to do that. Are there any particular elements that you see as kind of consistent patterns, both that you've applied or that you've helped coach other salespeople into, where it comes to that ability to list?
Well, it's really little things. It's when you arrive, I always gave them my gift bag, which is thank you so much for the opportunity to come and discuss managing the sales process of your home. I know that you could choose anybody to have this conversation with, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Before we get started, is there anything really bearing on your mind that you really want to get out, that you're really concerned about? You know, it's uncover, but it's little things like if you've got mum, dad, or husband, wife, and you there, take 3 copies of all of the written appraisal information. How many agents I see just take 1 copy? And it's you can't win a listing presentation off 1 copy of material. You want 1 for her, 1 for him, and 1 for you, so that you're all on the same page, all looking at the same information. And it's when you're going through, depending on how you appraise properties, you win or lose them on price, if you price them too high or you price them too low. So that's an art we learn over time. But it's, you know, it's asking, would you like me to see the property first, or would you like to sit down and talk about the process first? And I think
sorry.
The most important thing is you do not leave that room with them saying, oh, thanks so much, we'll call you at another, you know, we'll get back to you. That is not what you let happen. You've lost it if that's what's happening.
Yeah, that you touched on the appraisal piece, and you said that's an art you sort of learn over time. What have you learned over time?
Oh, look, it's different for every property and every person. I always say to people, look, I have to put down a price. And so I put down a price range, and it's a historical price range based on properties with similar features to yours. But I'm aware that there are going to be things about your property which are going to be different to the ones in the price range. So there's always 3 prices on a property. There's the price the vendor always really wants. There's the price the purchaser wants to pay, and they're not very often the same. And then my job in the middle is to make sure I do everything I can to get the right people through your property by doing X, Y, Z to ensure we can get you as close to that wish price as possible. That's about as much as I say on price.
Nice. Do you think that we have to adapt right now, where the sales evidence from the last 6 months going into an appraisal situation, we don't know if that's going to be proven right or wrong?
Yeah.
Has anything changed in the way that you would approach that?
Look, it would, and I think we had the same thing in our market in the Bays at the beginning of last year. And so we were getting really good results October, November, and then we came in with really good high-end properties in January, and none of them sold. And the reason they didn't sell is the appraisals was so high based on what people were paying, and a lot of that was the bank's lending criteria had changed. So it was nothing that we'd done, nothing that had happened in the market, but it happened so quickly that all of the appraisal data was now out of date. So I would be using that as an example. If I'm going in to do an appraisal now, I'd be saying, hey, look, we're doing it. I'm giving you an appraisal based on historical sales data. The data I'm giving you has been in a really buoyant market. It's been in a recovery market. We were on our way to a really strong market. we're not going to know for 4 weeks if that's still the case. And here's an example of when that happened. You know, back at the end of last year and then beginning of this year, we saw a change. It happened quickly. We couldn't predict what impact that was going to have on appraisals until it happened. So look, I can sit here and tell you everything you want to hear, but at the end of the day, what I can do is promise you that I am going to work with people to make sure we get the right people through the door, the right people know about your property, the right people are there on auction day if that's the way we go, and create an opportunity for you to get the highest price on the day.
Yeah, so true. You talked about the business mentality, and that some of the things you did created huge loyalty in your customers and they're coming back to you. The price point in some of the property that you've sold in the Eastern Bays is right up there with, you know, some of the most premier in Auckland. Is there any difference between selling the you know, the $800,000 unit versus the $5 million amazing views?
No, the difference is always
because I remember watching you sell that unit in Mission Bay. This wasn't long after I came to Auckland, and I don't know if I should have known, or maybe it was afterwards, but the reserve price and the price it sold for were two wildly different things. And I think you added something like 20% gain for that client with this tiny little 1-bedroom unit. So you've sold everything in between.
Yeah, you were staying at my house when I did that.
I know.
Look, I have sold everything in between, and I think it's the owner that makes the difference. And so it's not the price point. I think with the big properties, the 3 million plus properties, you get a lot more people coming to look, so you can build your network of people really well, and they're also really fun. You know, you can almost create a neighbourhood party atmosphere when you're selling those properties. And it's a show, it's a presentation. But the same principle applies. I don't know what the property is going to sell for. I know what the stats are. I know the vendor's looking at selling. What are your thoughts on price? And if people, like with an $800,000 unit, where I know the vendor wants $800,000, I'll be saying to the buyer, look, what are your thoughts? And of course they don't tell you. So I'd say, look, would you pay 800? No. Well, sorry. I'd say, well, would you pay 650? And they'd say, yeah. I'd say, great. Well, would you pay 7? And they'd say, yeah, we'd pay 7. Well, would you pay 750? Oh, well, we'd think about it. Well, I'll tell you what, if you think about it, you need to come to the auction. So it was, I'd never tell them what the vendor wanted, because the vendor generally doesn't know what they want and they don't know what they'll take come auction day. I always had to have a worst case scenario discussion with them before they got there. But I think it's always, it's the price will be justified on the day, or the price will come out on the day, but it's going to come down to how many people are interested. And at the moment, I've got lots of people saying that they are interested in the property, but they're not in a financial position to be able to buy it on the day. So if you're in a position to buy it on the day, you need to be there. But I'd try and avoid price as much as I could. But I was never one of those agents. I can't stand it. When you go to an agent, you say, how much is it worth? And they say, oh, I don't know, you know, you tell me. So I would always have a reference. Look, the property down the road, it's 3 bedrooms. It's an older style of home that doesn't have as much land, but that sold 6 months ago for 700. The property up the road, which has got more exclusive use area, that's been done up and fully renovated. That sold for 900. So we know it's in there somewhere. Where, I don't know.
Simple as that. But seriously, it's so interesting because there's a lot of different approaches to handling that buyer inquiry thing, and you get some agents putting a pitch price out there, others just put it straight back on there. We haven't got a clue. I like the way that you do that. But what's going to happen with feedback and the way that you work with, I guess, the service to your vendors, no matter what the market's doing, whilst you're doing that? So you're fielding the buyer inquiry, you're keeping them interested and getting the right buyers there. How do you, whilst that's happening, communicate well with your vendors? What's your strategy?
I think I set them up at the beginning. So when we go through the marketing package, I talk about the fact that photos are number one, because if we don't get the photos right, we're not going to get the numbers through the door. So For me, negotiation starts with the numbers in the door. So we're aiming to get a minimum of 5 people through the open home this week. We're aiming to get a minimum of X number of inquiries. If we know we've got that, and these days it's probably 10, 15 people through the open home. If we know we've got that, we know we're doing our job right. So on the first weekend, my vendors are delighted when they find out that we've had 16 people through. We're on target. We've got people coming through. When I phone those people back on a Monday and say, look, where do you see the property? Would you pay X for it? What would you pay? Look, I'm calling just to get some feedback from my vendor. Can I ask, where do you see the property's value? And normally they've been looking around the area for a while, so they'll have an idea. And if they don't, that's where I go into, well, would you pay X, Y, Z? And then I just drill down and find out how much do they know about the area? Have they put in offers on other properties? What is it they like about this property? And then I would do a 3-page written report to my vendors. I'd always be phoning my vendors though. Hey, look, just letting you know, I've spoken to everybody. I'm still waiting for 4 people to call me back. I've left messages with them. Right now, I've got 2 people saying, yes, they'd like further information. Okay, so we've got good people coming through, but we've only got 2 people at this stage saying, hey, look, they're really interested. So what I'll do is our next target, I was always setting my targets for vendors. My next target is to see if they come back through again next weekend, or to see if they organise a building inspection or a limb report. Okay, so that's what we're looking through. First thing is numbers. Second one is second repeat visits and doing conditions or due diligence prior to auction day. I said, if we've got those targets right, then we can worry about price at the end. But the price feedback was always low. So if I've got a neighbour, and I'd say that to them, is look, your neighbour's going to come through and tell you it's worth 1.2. Let's say all the vendors want 1 million, all the feedback's been 800 to 850 or 8 to 900. I'm just straight up to the vendors at the beginning and I say, look, your neighbour's going to come through and tell me 1.2. I'm not going to put that on the report that I send you. What I'm going to put on the report is the feedback from the people who know your area. They've looked at properties similar to yours and they are educated in their price feedback. Is that okay with you? And then I'd meet them face to face every week and I'd say, look, it's not where you want it to be. I know that. But we've got the numbers. We've got the people coming through. That's what we're focusing on. Forget about the price. And then on the 3rd week, we'll have a talk to them about price before they, if in an auction scenario, which is what I normally did. Then we talk about their will not sell price. And that's the one they have to come into the auction room with, not the reserve price. They can do whatever they want with that, but they need to know their will not sell price before they come.
Teresa, we've taken a journey right the way through from getting started to managing the auction process. I just want to say thank you for your generosity, and also thank you so much for the huge influence you've been in my life, professionally and personally. You got anyone watching this, there is so much gold here. There is so much gold here, and it's not just from Teresa's personal experience, but also from having coached other salespeople. And I think maybe as we come to the end of this, I'd just love to get your perspective from watching others and helping others to learn. As you know, I've been doing a similar thing, and it's fascinating that you can have a perspective and an understanding of something, but the ability to transmit that and help somebody else to have their own realization is a real art. And how have you, how have you done that?
I think it took me a long time to figure out you can't train motivation. So you can tell 2 people sitting side by side exactly the same methodology to go out and be really successful. One will do it, and the other one will come up with all the reasons why it's not going to work and why they can't do it. And the difference between the two is purely the motivation. It's the why. And people, I find, who have been through challenges, they're used to overcoming obstacles, and they're used to getting out of their comfort zone and can handle a bit of rejection, that often are the ones who have got the motivation. What I also find with myself and new people, but particularly myself, I'm not the most motivated person. So what I've found out is motivation comes from action. So start calling people when you don't feel motivated. At 9 o'clock, pick up the phone. Don't make the important phone call, always do that the 3rd or 4th one in, but just pick up the phone and start ringing, because by the time you get to 9:30, you're actually buzzing, you're hyped up, you're ready to go and amp for the rest of the day. So don't wait for the motivation to come. start doing the activity, and the motivation will come as a result.
It's a wonderful message. Teresa, thank you again so much.
My pleasure. We'll catch up soon.
Catch ya. See ya.
Thank you.